So let's talk about marketing today. Now, things to know about marketing your business. This is John Akinola, and I'll be walking us through some thoughts on marketing. First is sweet spot. What is sweet spot? Sweet spot is knowing where your price matches your audience's perception of value. And what that simply means is before you can slap a price on something, you must understand what your customers, or I call them your audience, perception of value is. Example, you want to buy a loaf of bread. Within your community, a loaf of bread is 500 naira, for example. Now, you are thinking of bringing something so wonderful that you price it at 2,000 naira. Now, because people's perception of bread is hinged at 500, right? If it's going to change, other of your competitors should be approaching that level as well. But if you're going to come into that space, then meaning you have to change their perception of value. That is where the hard work is. That's where the job of the marketing team comes in place to help you improve your customers or your audience's perception of your value to the point that even though you are selling in the same market where others are selling for 500, you are priced at 2,000, but they are willing to pay because you have upgraded their perception of value that you are bringing to the table. A good example is the iPhone. So people buy normal Android phones for, let's say 100k in naira, and then you now bring in a phone that is priced at that 100k. Now the person whose income stream sometimes might not even be able to afford it because they are able to create a perception of value that is only the high class people that can actually afford this. Because people want to identify, they now save money, borrow money, do all manner of things, but they don't question the fact that it is valued at that price. They're actually stepping up to be able to meet up to that price and doing everything they can. Now, that is what your sweet spot is. When you're able to figure it out, that gives you an edge. Now, people that go and price things very high and they are not able to raise the customer's perception of value to that price, they will find it difficult to sell because nobody's buying. But once they're able to raise, even people that can't really afford it will be wanting to, because the perception they have is that that thing is really valuable, right? Funny enough, the functions of the phone, the features of the phone are things that will be used to communicate. So the ability to share with you that these are the things these products can do or this service can do for you is raising your perception. That is why people will have webinars and they'll tell you it's free, and they'll come and talk about something, maybe it's a business idea, a business model. They'll try to educate you. Now towards the end, they've raised your perception of value, they've educated you enough, you now feel that this thing is really serious, so then they now sell and tell you this thing is worth 200k. Anybody that will not buy within the next 7 days, because they know that if the education is not consistent, that perception of value can drop. So when they're able to hook you in the perception of value that you've come to by reason of being in that webinar, you've raised your perception high, they can sell to you. But if they give you 7 days, you might forget some things you heard, the energy level might drop and your perception of value might drop too. It might not be everybody, but most people. If it is consistent over time, you find out that people will eventually still meet up and make those payments. So that's why marketing is a continuous journey, because you pitch today to your customers, tomorrow you might not perceive it at that level. So you have to actually, the same thing happens in the stock market. The moment there's a general consensus in the air that it's like this company is going to fold up, people perceive that this company is not that valuable. So people begin to sell their stocks in the company and the company goes down. So that perception, if it's not fixed, drags the whole value chain down. So the reason why many business owners don't seem to understand how important marketing is because they've not been able to correlate spending money on marketing and how it affects their bottom line. Example, there are businesses that, like a hospital, for example, people are already coming. So if I market, how will it help? But I will still talk about why you need to see a picture that helps you know that market is important. But right now we're talking about perception of value. Now the next thing is, what is value? We're talking about value. So what is value? Value is relative to your audience and their purchasing power. Yes. So if you come to me as regards certain things, I would price them well, right? And thousands of people like me would also agree. So if you're marketing and I buy from you, that means your job is to find all the people in the world that are like me and follow the same process, and you most likely sell out. Now, if I am within a demography of people that is more general, so if you can find out in the big context of things, can you define me as an audience? The things I like, the things the things that qualify me based on the reason why I bought. So let me give an example. Let's say I want to buy a shirt. Now, there's certain kind of shirts that I like. Now, if you bring me a corporate t-shirt that is striped, I might value it well, but I might not want to buy it because my preference is not in striped, neither is in with colored, but I like the material. So that is on one side. Now on another side, you might bring me a Ralph Lauren shirt that goes for like 25k. If I'm a corporate shirt lover, also I will not buy. So this is me in two scenarios. Scenario one is where I don't want it to have a collar, maybe collarless shirts, and I don't want it to be striped, maybe plain. And the other side is where I like collarless. I like collared and striped, but it's 25k. It's too expensive. So relative to my audience and relative to my purchasing power, that is how every customer thinks. And that is how, as a business owner, you should be able to identify the characteristics of your audience in relation to their purchasing power. You can define it in one sentence. Example, my business's customers are students in university between 300 level and 400 level who are preparing for final year. That is a business. Do you understand? It's a business. Let me take it up to the outside world. You can say my business, my customers or my audience are bankers who just got employment or are within the first year the employment. So maybe there are things you want to sell to them. You can say your audience are newly married couples who are trying to set up their home or their house. You can say your audience are intending couples who are trying to plan their wedding. You can say your audience are business owners who are struggling with management. You can say your audience are business people who find it difficult to order food while they are working, so they need a plan. And then that's so your audience can be, but they have to be defined. Now when you define your audience, you now ask yourself, what is their purchasing power? So if your audience is, I'm looking for entry-level bankers who like corporate shirts, you might decide to sell striped and plain corporate shirts. But you might also need to consider what the purchasing power will be. An entry-level staff will not want to buy a shirt of 25,000 naira from you because the salary might be somewhere around the 150,000. So to remove 25,000 for one shirt might be a long shot. You might have to do a lot of convincing. And if the person is someone that appreciates value, you might want to wait or just buy one. But if you're able to pipe down and get some other nice brands that are within the range of say 5k, the person can buy 2 or 3, then you can get 10, 20, 40 or those kind of entry-level stuff, And when they come in, they tell their friends, they tell other people that are already working there, so it spreads like that. Because if those people can afford it, then people even hire. You can also upsell and say, I also have the ones of 25k that are this brand. So do you understand? So you can have an upsell of your current offering, but you know that for that your audience, and might I add that every business can have more than one audience, and it's a smart thing to do. So a good example is when you go to the bank, there are people who are restricted to the counter, the person behind the counter, and you that are the customer coming. Now there are also customers that when they come to the bank dare not allow them to join the queue. They actually go to the manager's office, because if the person comes to the counter, even the figures they will call, the cashier or whoever is at the counter would say, please, you have to see our manager. I cannot perform this transaction over the counter. Meaning that there's an audience, general people, students, market sellers, general small business owners, and there's another set of people who are like a different class. They deal in multi-millions and billions. Those ones visit the managers and top directors to do their transactions, and those ones they come in once in a blue moon, or they make a phone call when they have a need. So there are two different categories. Now, if you create a business that only serves one type of audience, you might be limiting yourself. Now, it's good to start with one, but you should also think beyond one audience size. Begin to think of, can I also serve another audience? So let's go back to the example of entry-level bankers. You want to sell corporate shares to them. Now, there are also higher level bankers, but then they won't want to be buying 5k shares that they are low-level bank, like the entry-level bankers are buying, So they might just say, you're looking nice. I can say, oh sir, I bought this shirt 5k, but there's these guys that sell to me. They actually have like top brands that I know you will like. Those ones go for like 25k. Now you're appealing to the person's, that person feels like, that's the kind of thing I want to afford, So it's still that sense of superiority in a way. Although some smart people really don't care. The managers will say, see, it's the 5k one I want. But either ways, you have an upsell for those who, to them, that 25k is like 5k. While the same 5k person will be looking at you somehow if you say shirt is 200 or 500 naira. Like, what kind of shirt is that? Same way to the person that can hear 5k and be like, what kind of shirt is that? I feel like a shirt should be anywhere around that kind 25k upward, because within their circle, those are like affordable things. So you need to understand your audience and their purchasing power. If you don't, you will limit what you can sell, and you'll be having frustrating sales. Having said that, what do we now call marketing in all of this? So marketing is getting your value in front of the right audience. Yes, and you must understand this, because it's one thing to know what your value is. You define your value by understanding what your audience needs and wants, and then attaching a price to it. Now that price you attach and what you are affording at that price needs to be close or even equal to their perception of value. That's what I call the sweet spot, which I explained earlier. Now, understanding that marketing is getting your value in front of the right audience, you begin to think, what is the best way? You now hear things like marketing strategy. You hear things like marketing channels, So do I go with influencers? Do I go with affiliates? Do I go with paid? Do I go with organic advertising? And do I go with, home to home, house to house, street by street? Do I go? There's so many ways, to advertise. Now, this is another area where I think business owners need to also begin to think. Most business people seem to not want to explore because they have a tight budget. But Coming to business is like being a scientist. You have an idea that you want to solve a problem, but you're not exactly sure what combinations will work. So you bring all your hypotheses to the table and you begin to test. And by the time you test, you find out that, oh, this seems to work better than this. Example, you are starting out food business. You want to, or let's say you are selling stuff for, let's say you start a food business. Now, you're wondering, do I give people free food and ask them to tell their friends? Do I put my food at a discounted price, and because it's good, people will come and buy and eat? They like the food, they come back because it's cheap. Do I have an influential person actually talk about my brand? I just pay the person money, the person does the pictures and videos of my food, shares it to everybody to come and buy from me. Do I run ads on Facebook or on WhatsApp or on Instagram so that people can come to me and buy? Do I take it around, going to offices, going to schools, going to different places and see if I can convince people to buy from me? So these are different channels you can use. Do I start a blog? Do I start writing about it? Do I start a YouTube channel? Do I start shooting videos? Do I start a podcast and start recording? Do I, do a billboard? Do I go on television and talk about it, or radio? Do I print flyers? All of these different channels. Surprisingly, the best you can do is to guess and test. Guess and test. Most times, people don't test enough options. In that testing, there's something more I want to say. You can test something, but the parameters you are using to test are not enough for you to prove that this thing does not work. So I say, when I'm testing strategies in marketing, I like to give myself ample space of time and resources to prove that this strategy does not work. I'll give an example. So I said I wanted to do Twitter, organic marketing, DM. So I'll go into people's DMs, ask about them using a company's account. Hi. Sometimes I go straight to the point. We are so and so, this is what we do. If you need help, talk to us. Or I just drop a hi, or I just drop. So I tried different messaging styles to see which one people respond to. Or I go through their timeline on Twitter and I see, they tweet about something in particular, and I tweet them. I say, nice tweets about so and so. I like you. Now, I said, if we're sending 10 DMs every day, I send it for 40 days. That's 400 DMs. If I send 400 DMs and we have 0 sales, that means you can, for a fact, prove that either your messaging is not correct or that style you're using is not working, right? So you can prove that strategy so far so good is not working. But if you just say, I sent 10 DMs, nobody responded, and you shut down Twitter and say Twitter is not working, it might be that your account is not even big enough, and people are looking at the message and looking at your account and like, person that has just 20 followers, how am I going to trust that they can help me they can help me grow my own brand? Because they need growth. So there are so many factors there that you should be able to test. So if you grow your account to 20k or 10k and you are getting a lot of retweets and you send DMs to people and they are still not responding, so there are so many things you can test and retest and retest and retest. Sometimes I dare say you can actually pick a particular form of marketing and work it till it actually meets your needs. For example, you're selling akara and in your local street here you want to sell. You're not going to go on YouTube and start a YouTube channel to start selling akara. Doesn't make any sense, right? What you need is to come early, set up and start frying and let the smell, fry onions so the smell can permeate the atmosphere and people pass by. So visibility is your strategy. So every business has a strategy that works like best, but you need to test. Now the YouTube can present you opportunities in the sense that people can see and share, and you can get invited to make for dishes, you can get to a TV show, you can get paid by YouTube. There's so many other opportunities you will get from one marketing channel. So every marketing channel would actually profit you in some way if you invest in it properly. It will definitely bring results, but the results will vary based on how you went about it. That's why you need a professional to actually help you. It doesn't make sense to go on your own and begin to try. Like I said, it's like an experiment, but every scientist must be trained. So you go in there, on one part you are trying to like serve your value, create your value and serve it to the world, but another part you need to like, let that value get to everybody or most people within your audience space. And that's where I think people need help. So meaning there's the marketing side and there's the business side of managing the value and the customers and all whatnot, and there's also the side of getting the word out there. It's a conscious effort, it's a daily thing, it's a weekly thing, it's a monthly thing, it's a yearly thing, something that requires an actual budget. It's something that requires dedication, and sometimes the business owner is not the best person to go around, except you're not the one actively running the operations of your business. Then you can focus on the marketing. But if you are focused on operations and marketing at the same time, you will be split. So while you're frying akara, you're also at the same time trying to sell. You'll be split. So it makes sense to focus on either the operations or the marketing. If you're focusing on the marketing, then employ someone to do the operations. If you're focusing on the operations of the business, employ someone to do the marketing. So maybe it's a staff, maybe it's an agency like mine, Coinsa. We actually help small and growing businesses that need help in marketing. Our role is to get your business to the right audience. Get your business to the right audience. We will help you define who they are, and we'll help you reach out to them. Now, talking about the next thing to know, marketing insights. Know the purchasing power of your audience. I talked a little bit about it earlier on, but I want to emphasize it again. The purchasing power of your audience is what they have valued your proposition to in terms of price. So you can say that you are selling let's say you are selling a book, and I come and tell them the book is worth 150,000 naira, and the person is looking at you that, okay, even me, I'm trying to look for, even my house rent per month is not 150,000. I should buy book. So the person you're marketing to is the wrongest person. But then it depends on who. If you're talking to somebody who actually understands the value of what you're saying, it might look like, oh, that 150,000 is actually affordable. Now, let's say a speaker, for example. Someone just wants to listen to music and goes to the shop and they're telling him that, oh, buy this speaker, it's nice, it's 150,000. I just want to listen to music, oh, please give me a speaker of like 8,000 or 10,000. Do you understand? So now, because that person's purchasing power is within a range, because of the value they're looking for, right? That is why they wouldn't want to spend 150,000. But if you're talking to someone who is like a DJ or a producer or a music person who wants high quality speakers, right? These two people want speakers. These two people want to listen to music, but the needs are different. So I remember I talked about knowing your needs and their wants and attaching the right price to it. If you and you see that these two people are in different audiences, even though they're in the big audience of people that want to listen to music, that want to buy speakers, but their needs are a little bit deeper. So one wants to listen to it for fun, one wants to listen to it for work. Now, you'll find a slight number of people who wouldn't mind having those speakers for fun at that price, but you know that the majority would not want. So that's why you see people create products, but they are valued at different prices. Do you understand? So the same company will produce a small speaker and they also produce a larger speaker. So the small speaker appeals to an audience, the larger speaker appeals to another kind of audience. And that is one of the beauties of marketing. You're able to know the purchasing power of a particular audience size, and you're able to attach the right price to it. And with that, you are now happy that, you can now begin to sell more and more and more by approaching more people to that audience, and then intentionally building your audience So you have 3, 4, 5 customers. Find a way to get more of those kinds of people, and find a way to get more and more of those kinds of people. If you take marketing with this perspective, you find out that things will be a bit better and easier. Another thing you should know in terms of insight is the total size of your audience. Now, I noticed that many business people don't realize the size of their audience. So let me go back to the example we used before, the banker. So the banker is entry level and you are selling t-shirts to him. Now, how many people fall between entry level bankers within 1 year? If you are able to calculate it for 2 or 3 banks around you, find a way to estimate the number of banks within your state, within 3 states around you, within the southwest, within the north. Just do a rough sample sketch that gives you an idea of how many entry-level staff come within the space of 1 year. With that, you can approach your market. If you are dealing with only one state, you can just Google search how many banks are in Nigeria, in Lagos, or what state you're in. If you're selling akara and you're within a local government area, you can actually Google search the number of people in that area, and you can even go down to within your local community. You can do a rough sketch. You can just stroll around and see how many people stay within that vicinity and have a good idea of the people around you. If you are going to be using online, let's say WhatsApp, now you have a good idea of how many. If you're looking at mothers, for example, mothers that just put to bed, have an estimate of the number of newborns within the last 1 year. All of this information is online. Some that are not directly online, you might need to be creative to actually pick it out. That's why Quinsa is also here. We actually help businesses to identify their total size of their audience. Now, there's something we call TAM, total addressable market. A lot of investors need to know this figure, but more important is the actual. So you have the actual audience size, which is large. You have the total addressable market, which is the people you can actually reach out to. So if you are saying bankers, for example, entry level, if you give me the information for the whole of Nigeria, you're not serving the whole of Nigeria. So your total addressable market might be, okay, there are 6 or 7 million entry level staff that are coming to banks within the space of 1 year. Great. Now, that data might not be as important as within the community where I stay and the state where I reside, that I can successfully spread my wings. There are, let's say, 50 something banks. Out of 50 something, each one employs about 4 or 5 entry level staff within the space of 1 year. So you multiply that 5 by, let's say it was 50 banks. So 5 entry level staff by 50 banks, that's 250, right? 250 altogether new staff. So if I reach out to all of them, they are my total addressable market. How much can they afford? I've established that 5k is not too much for them. They have bought it at that price. I've sold to like 10 or 15 of them and they are actually okay with that price. Good. Meaning the next problem will be how to get your message and your products to all of those 250 people. Now, for other reasons not known to you, like situations in their life, maybe someone's in a hospital or they're simply not interested, they have enough shirts. There are so many other factors that come to play, but the ones within your control, when you tick those boxes, you find out that you can now approach your market having understood the size. But you see people shortchanging themselves. They just sell to like 3 or 4 banks, and in their mind, because those people buy regularly from them, they feel they are doing good business. They're selling 20 to 30 to 40 shirts within the space of 3 months, not realizing that you're dealing with 5 banks when there are 240 something more out there, 245 more banks that you should be reaching out to. So this is why market is important, and you can't reach out to them on your own. You need a team, and that's where Quinsa comes in again. We can actually help you, reach out to your total addressable market. Now, finally, you must learn how to influence the perception of value of your demography, or let's call them your audience. Now, Apple has been excellent at doing this. They come into the market with a product that seems to be mind-blowing, but for you to call it mind-blowing, they showed you something. They explained their product in a way that you understood it. They communicated the technical things in simple English that you could understand. And when they were done, they put it up for sale. People lined up to buy. They used different strategies to make it available to people on demand or within the space of a period of time. They created some kind of scarcity that, we only produce X number, so once it sells out, you have to wait again. All of these things put together are different tactics in the strategy that they use to influence their perception of value. Whatever business you're in, there are people who need it, but if their perception of your value is not there, they won't bring out money from their pockets to give you. Example is a mother that just gave birth. Probably she uses this towel to wrap the child. Now, using some high quality pampers is good, but because you can get by doing the normal, she doesn't see. But if you can communicate and raise her perception of value, she sees the need to use a higher quality of pampers, that it makes the child feel cool and less the child can actually stay longer without having to change almost immediately, as opposed to if you use the cloth and the child is already complaining and crying and irritated, and it's like the woman is like agitated because any moment the child can start crying. But you notice that with the pampers, that is really nice. Until she checks, she might not even know because it doesn't smell, it doesn't anything. So that's just an idea. So that's raise the perception of value. You might need to give her something to test to prove your point. Sometimes you need to go the extra mile to help, because a lot of customers need help. And if you as the owner of a business can perceive that this person needs help, but they don't even know that they are shortchanging themselves by the things they are doing. Example is somebody struggling with 3 or 4 Android phones that are not working properly, and you know that with one iPhone can solve all those problems, right? And then you try to help the person see, probably by showing the person the things you can do with your iPhone that covers most of the things the person can't do. Now the person's perception of value changes, and they begin to reason with you that even if I can't afford this thing, but at least I understand that it is worth X amount. So the moment I can afford it, you will be my first point of call. So that is where influencing their perception of value comes in. So you shouldn't just if someone says no, they're not buying, your ability to influence their perception of value for that thing you sell goes a long way in aiding their buying decision. And you can either do it in an educative way or in an irritating way. In an irritating way, customer feels like you're being pushy. In an educative way, they feel like they've gained insights, but still they're sticking with their decision. When things change around them, they begin to reason along your line and begin to see sense in some things you were saying. Example is, let me use land. Someone says, let's buy land over 500k, land appreciates in value and this and that. You were talking and the person didn't seem to be interested because probably at that point the person had the money but didn't really think it was necessary. Now, you found out that same land is now worth 5 million, and you now try to explain to the person, see that land that told you 500k is now 5 million. Now the person is probably taking 3-4 years in that mindset, but then the moment you let them know and you tell them that based on this, can they see? Now there's also more. Now the customers are actually stubborn, or should I say your audience? Some of them are stubborn. The audience are trying to influence. They might still refuse to believe in you, but remember, it takes sometimes people saying no over and over and over again for them to actually say yes, because their no is based on what they know, yes, and what they believe. So you can influence them. That's another area I feel a lot of businesses failing. They don't know how to influence people that are not in their audience and bring them into their audience. Now the moment they buy from you, they've gone from your audience to your customers, and then there's another journey of customer satisfaction where the moment they buy from you, you have to start another journey of making sure they stay with you. You have to engage them. Yeah, that's another story for another day. But today has been about marketing insights. Probably some of the things I've said, but I must have said at least one or two things that are helpful. Maybe you just think about it. Think about your business and see, can I improve my business with any of the information I've heard today? Do I think I need help of a company like Coinsa to really, map out my marketing strategy, to really know what my total addressable market is, to know how to educate or influence my audience to be able to raise their perception of value? Do I need help to be able to attach the right pricing to my offer so that I don't begin to push people to buy things that they don't feel the need for at that price? Any area you need help, just reach out. help@coinsa.com.ng is the email. You can call this number 070-6589-1814, and on WhatsApp also there's another number. Once you reach out to those two contacts, on Twitter we are Coinsa__INC. That's incorporated 2 underscores, so QUINSA__INC. And there you have it, marketing insights with John Akinola.